itself.
Let me get some more analysis. I want to bring in Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii. She's a key member of the House Armed Services Committee, an Iraq War veteran herself. Congresswoman, what do you think? The president's main message, what do you think of that message? And as you know, he still is not saying what you want him to say, talk about radical Islam, Islamic extremism. He's making the case that that would be counterproductive.
Aloha, Wolf. Yes, I think that if you look at some of the conversations that have happened during the summit and the president's speech that we heard just a few minutes ago, still I think it is a diversion from where we need to be focused. If you look at this broad focus on countering violent extremism, which is very hard to define, it's a diversion away from the actual threat coming from this radical Islamic ideology that exists not only for the United States, but really around the world. And I think one of the things that is important to note is that the administration is misidentifying the enemy and their motivation by saying that they're motivated out of materialistic aspirations, that they're motivated out of poverty, of a lack of jobs or education or opportunity. And as a result, the courses of action that the administration is proposing are also materialistic in nature, saying that, well, if we just go and alleviate poverty, if we go and create jobs and increase opportunity and institute this Western style of democracy, that somehow this is going to solve the problem, when really that's not the case. We can look to the past and see many different examples where this has occurred, whether you look at Libya, you look at Egypt, you look at what's being proposed with Syria. In each of these different instances, a dictator has been removed. There has been an attempt to institute a Western-style democracy, and in each of these cases, ISIS and Islamic extremists are more powerful and presenting a greater threat than they did before. So that's why it's so important that we recognize that these people are being motivated from different parts of the world by a spiritual or a theological motivation, which is this radical Islamic ideology.
I know it's not easy for you, a fellow Democrat, to criticize as strongly as you have criticized the president for refusing to use those words. But what do you think the president now needs to do? He's given a speech. He's going to give another speech before this summit meeting, countering violent extremism tomorrow morning. But to follow up, what do you want him to do to crush ISIS and these other terror groups? And I ask you as a veteran of the U.S. military who served in Iraq.
Well, you know, Wolf, the way that I look at this is from a strategic standpoint, and this is why I feel so strongly that it's important for the president, important for the White House, the administration, the leaders in Congress as well in both parties to recognize that we've got to learn from the mistakes of the past in order to effectively defeat this enemy that's threatening us and threatening the safety of the American people. And the first step that must come to do in order to do that is identifying and understanding who they are and what's driving them and executing a simultaneous military and ideological strategy to defeat them. If we don't do that, then we're going to continue to find ourselves in this endless cycle, just as we've seen has occurred in the past over and over again.
What difference would it make if he actually used the words you want him to use, radical Islam or Islamic extremism? In practical terms, what would be?
By identifying this ideology, which is a theological one that's driving them, then you can look at where they're recruiting. What are their methods of recruiting? You mentioned earlier in your piece that they're recruiting not only from places where people are poor, but also from very rich democratic societies in these foreign fighters. So by identifying who they are, then you can look at their tactics. You can look at why they're doing what they're doing, the methods that they're using to recruit and grow their support, and then understand, okay, well, this is what we need to do to defeat them in a way that is militarily as well as ideologically, and send that strong message to people who are looking to what ISIS has to offer and say, if you join them, number one, we will defeat you militarily, you will be killed. And number two, the spiritual promise that they're selling, that somehow this is pleasing to God, is absolutely false, that you're not going to heaven, that you're going to hell if you follow that path and commit these atrocities.
Congresswoman, I want you to stand by.